Hi, welcome to the MGL podcast. This podcast is about our lives as missionaries of God's love.
So welcome to the MGL podcast. I'm Father Chris Eaton.
I'm Fr Dave Callaghan.
So great to have you with us today. I've got Father Dave here, and we're going to be talking about how to defend the faith. So maybe just to start, Dave, just want to tell us a bit about yourself and
Yes, so I have been in the MGL since the year 2000. I joined. I was 21. Got ordained in 2008. I'm now based up in Darwin. So did most of my early years in Canberra, and I've spent this is now my sixth year in Darwin, working in the Holy Spirit parish up there. So That's probably a very brief overview.
Yeah, that's all right. That's good. So today, as you're saying, talking about how to defend the faith. What's your, I guess, just starting off, kind of one of your experiences or some of your experiences of defending your faith?
I think, I grew up in a Catholic family, went through Catholic schooling, went through Catholic youth group, and you kind of grow up in this Catholic bubble where everyone kind of thinks out of the same framework as you. It wasn't until I got to university and suddenly I realized other people thought differently to me. And I think for me, it was the first time when I really had to take my faith seriously because I had to defend it. And so I think this idea of defending the faith is a beautiful thing because it gives you a motivation to actually work out what you're actually standing on. Like if you're inside that Catholic bubble, you take it for granted and you're not growing. I was studying, it was sort of like social work. And I remember we had this tutorial where the discussion was around faith-based youth ministry or youth work in a secular context. Like how does that work? Half the class was atheist, half of the class were Christians. And as far as I was aware, I was the only Catholic. Yeah. So it was like all the atheists against the Christians and all the Christians against me.
Yeah, okay.
And it was such a defining moment, I think, for me as a young adult, where I was just like, wow, I don't know anything. Like all this stuff that I presumed I knew, just because you never actually have to question it. Suddenly I was like, well, why do we believe in the Pope? Why do we do all this stuff? Yeah. Thankfully, this was the early years of the internet, so I just started. I don't think Google even existed back then, but I just went online and started finding every apologetics website I could find, and I learnt, and I fell in love with my faith as a result. So I think if you don't have someone questioning you and really challenging you, you're missing out. Like it's a beautiful thing to have people from another religion or people who are skeptical who are going to kind of needle you and kind of make you ask the questions you've never asked before.
Yeah. I mean, we were just chatting before the podcast, just around like the culture today where we're at, like as a Catholic church, and just how we are in defense of the faith. And
well, I think we're in a really unique situation. So if you go back a few generations, like the church did a lot of work around apologetics, like trying to work out how do we defend what Catholics believe. And because we lived in a world where there was a very strong Catholic Protestant divide, but also the growing atheism of the world. And it was kind of this world where we were, I suppose, the dominant culture, but you had these emerging cultures which were challenging that. Really trying to knock out the pillars of the faith.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing was that if you want to be a good Catholic, you've got to learn how to defend yourself. I think we're in a different era now where I think the tables have turned. In a lot of ways, we're in this radically secular culture, where atheism is won, really. And so if I can kind of explain it, like I don't think we need to defend the faith anymore. I think rather we get to play the role of the skeptic.
Yeah, okay.
And I think we actually need to learn how to have the confidence to do that. So like if you go back to, the classic atheist arguments. Like, they never actually presented a worldview. All they had to do was undermine Christianity.
Yeah.
You know, if you could just throw out some sort of nice rhetorical argument, you know, the classic thing that a lot of atheists say is, you know, there's thousands of gods in the world. You don't believe in all of them except for one. You know, I just believe in one less than you. It's a beautiful bit of rhetoric. Makes absolutely no sense, though.
Yeah.
And I suppose this is the culture we've been in, where people have just been kind of sniping at us, you know, like hitting us, trying to kind of keep us hiding behind the defenses.
Yeah.
I think we've got to actually come out and play games, you know.
It's very different now.
It's very different, you know, and, you know, the next time someone kind of has a go at Christianity, turn it around and say, well, go on, convert me. Give me a really good reason to become an atheist.
Yeah.
I think they're going to struggle. You know, they'll try and bring out a few of these classic, you know, ideas, but say, no, genuinely, try to convert me. Give me a vision of your worldview. You know, a worldview which, you know, has a very relativistic morality. Show me how that's actually going to work long term, and I'll come and join you. And I think this is the game we've got to actually learn how to play now, because if you ask enough questions, it'll fall apart.
Yeah.
And this is the idea that we've always had with the Catholic faith, is that it's a coherent idea of faith.
Yeah.
You know, everything holds together.
Yeah.
And we've had 2,000 years of people questioning it, and it still holds together. Doesn't work on the secular side. It's not coherent at all. And if you can just play the skeptic and ask the right questions, very quickly people are either going to change the topic or get very angry. But either way, you're sowing doubt in them. You know, like, and maybe this is the thing we've got to realize, is that atheists doubt their faith all the time. Like, statistics show that 20% of atheists pray.
Yeah. When things go wrong.
But like that's a big red flag for the atheist cause. Okay. So how do we tap into that and use that as a whole alternative way of defending the faith? You know, rather than hiding behind the fortress, we go and attack.
Yeah. I mean, because you'd think because the secular culture is getting, you know, more evasive and bigger and larger and around us and surrounding us, you'd sort of think, okay, we're getting smaller, we need to just, you know, like, just protect ourselves, and but you're just talking about the opposite to that. It's like because of the culture's just so around us, that it's more putting them on trial rather than we're feeling like we're surrounded. It's kind of because we're not seeing the world's getting better, and it's like obvious, like people are confused, don't even know what a human person is, don't even know just basic stuff now. That it's like they've got to actually prove to us or defend the reality of why that's a better way of living. Like, because we're not seeing proof of that. Yeah. And
I think we've got to draw a distinction between being able to defend the faith as opposed to being defensive.
Yeah.
They're two very different things.
That's like a defense. Yeah, you're defensive. You're kind of circling the, you know.
You're hiding. Yeah. You're scared of the reality.
Yeah.
There's a classic opinion piece that was written. When I was studying in the seminary, I came across this article from 1948. This young English guy, Dennis Jackson, who had come to study at Melbourne University. And he wrote this critique about the Australian church. And he basically says, look, on the surface, it looks amazing. You know, churches are full. There's these amazing conferences. Everything looks great. But he says the problem is that the whole focus is focused on defence.
Yeah.
And it's kind of coming out of the Irish heritage, that in the same way that the Irish were having to be so defensive about preserving their faith against all this Protestant attack from England. We've brought that here to Australia. And he says, look, it's not working. You know, like even though we're preserving the faith of our families, we're not influencing society. We're not changing anything.
Yeah.
And we're focusing all our energy on trying to build higher fortresses and defences, whereas actually we need to be out, you know, actually changing people's worldview. using the faith not as something to be defended, but as actually something which is meant to bring sanity into a crazy world.
Yeah.
And, but he finishes this article with this real warning. He basically says, if we don't do that, things are going to get more dangerous.
Yeah.
That
this is 1948.
This is 1948.
Yeah.
And he basically says that, the language he uses, he says that the hawks of secularism are going to be attacking these scared chickens of Christianity. And gradually each generation we're going to lose more and more and more.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened.
Yeah.
But if we're actually equipping people to know their faith, to see it as a sane worldview, a worldview of sanity, and to then speak that into a world which is going crazy.
Yeah, because that's not defensive. That's actually offering something. And I guess that's how we. Yeah, but then we're not sort of defensive, trying to defend ourselves and proving things. We're more just like, well, we're offering something that is a medicine or healing to the world, really. Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be an angry kind of proselytizing sort of thing.
No. That doesn't work anyway.
No, I think the best thing is to ask questions. If you ask enough questions, if something makes sense, it'll keep standing. But if it doesn't make sense, it'll collapse. And, we need to almost tap into that inner 2-year-old inside of us and just keep asking why. That's a beautiful thing of kids. They're like, but why? But why? Just to say, but how does that work? But like, what's that actually going to lead to? And I'm not arguing with you. Like, I actually want to know if this is the path of truth. Like I'll join you if it's correct.
Yeah, and I remember, I remember I chatted to you a few years back, and you kind of gave me that same sort of advice of like, I was just chatting with somebody who was, different worldview and kind of just going down a different track to me. But I realized in that as well, there's got to be like a balance of like actually genuinely asking the question and actually wanting to know, because it can be just sort of like an interrogation otherwise.
Yes.
Do you know, like you're just kind of like, why? But what about that? What about this? What about that? And it's sort of defensive.
Yeah.
So somehow to actually it's that whole kind of love thing, but it's got to be done in a real, honest, true way, not in a. Because that can just be like, it didn't work for me in that moment when I was trying to do it. Because the other person was like, what the? You just keep asking all these questions, you're not listening to me or whatever.
And I think this is where you got to check your heart. That if you're genuinely curious about humanity, you're encountering the person. Like you're not trying to win this person as a prize.
No,
it's not a game where you're trying to score points. You're genuinely curious. Like I was chatting to a guy from a Hindu background some years ago, and it was the most fascinating conversation I've ever had. Because he was keen to share his faith. And I was really keen to learn. But you could see there was this genuine dialogue of, as I'm asking him questions, he's having to think. He's really now seeing his faith from a different perspective. I'm seeing my faith from a different perspective. And then we get to a point where we're like, okay, well, this is where there's a key difference here. Like, our whole concept of God is radically different. It really leaves space open for the Spirit of God to do the rest. Like, conversion is not an intellectual game.
That's true.
We're trying to meet on a human level and then allow the Spirit of God to do the rest. And I think so much of this is about really trying to stir up genuine curiosity. Example, years ago when I forget how long it was back now, Cardinal George Pell was on that ABC program Q&A, and he was debating Richard Dawkins. And in the midst of that, Dawkins asks him this question and says, can atheists go to heaven? And Cardinal Pell said yes. And absolutely floored Dawkins because it wasn't what he was expecting. And he went on to kind of explain the Catholic view of salvation. 3 months later, we were doing some stuff in Sydney. There was a evangelization thing that was happening through the Sydney diocese. And as a result of that, we had this kind of information booth in Martin Place. And this businessman walked up randomly and started speaking to one of our brothers. and just comes up and says, excuse me, Cardinal Pell said that atheists can go to heaven. What do you think about that?
I would have stumped him.
Well, yeah, this brother had no idea what to say, so he grabbed me by the shirt, pulled me in and had a chat.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had a really interesting chat with this guy. But what fascinated me was that for 3 months, this guy had this question ticking over in his head. It had broken the stereotype or the prejudice that he had about Christianity. And in the midst of his daily work, he's just had this question nagging him. As soon as he's seen the first Catholic, he's gone up and asked a question. He's listened politely, and then he's just walked off. Probably then spent the next 3 months again
just thinking about it.
And that's the place where I think we've just got to let the Spirit of God do the rest. Like you're going to have these conversations, and they're probably not going to have any resolution, and be comfortable with that. But God's the one who's doing the converting. Like your job is to plant a seed of love, a seed of hope and truth, and let the Spirit of God do the rest.
Yeah. It's hard to because to have that genuine heart, for the other person. Like you can't just put that on. You can't just be like, okay, I'm just gonna have a genuine heart with the person, and then I'm just gonna go off my normal thing. Like that's the whole importance of building. I mean, depending on you might have just an encounter with that person, just 15 minutes and then they're off and you'll see them again. But trying to build a kind of relationship or get to know the person and I've had situations where just in family and your family friends or whatever and they know I'm a priest, but then just not even really talking about God or anything like that, just getting to know them. And I remember one time just spending a whole kind of weekend away, and then it was on the way home, the trip home. We started talking about things, and he was just sort of like, well, I mean, I'm amazed you didn't actually try and push this on me. I feel open to asking you questions because, just kind of building that genuine relationship is important. Actually, you can't pretend and fake. People see through that. So, no, it's good. It's good.
A big part of this is breaking down fear. Faith is something which is so deeply personal. And particularly when you start to get into the realm of morality, that's even more so. So people are naturally defensive. I think you want to be prepared to play the long game with this, and particularly with people who are the most important to you, so family and friends. It's easy to do this with random strangers. Sometimes there's this feeling of well, I've got to convert my family now, or my annoying sibling is always having a go at me about my faith, and I've got to try and prove that they're wrong. To actually see beyond that. So one of the key things I think we get wrong about defending the faith is that we kind of mix the presenting problem with the real problem. So the presenting problem is a person might come up to you and say, I don't agree with the Pope, or I think the Catholic Church is evil because of this. We've got to realize that's not actually the real question they're asking. The real thing they're asking is, does God love me? I remember years ago, I was helping out with a school retreat, and over a couple of days, I built a relationship with a few of these kids, and this year 11 guy just opened up in conversation saying, I really hate the Pope. I was like, that's a great opening line. Here we go. And he said, I hate the Pope because of his stance on IVF. Now, I'd just been studying in the seminary. I had a head full of bioethics. I was like, I know the answer to this. I can jump in and explain all the church's reasons. But I felt like the Holy Spirit just say, shut up. Don't say a word. Just listen. And so I kind of gestured, keep telling me more, At which point he says, and the reason I hate the church's stance on IVF is because I'm an IVF baby.
It's kind of...
And straight away you're just like, this is not an intellectual argument.
No.
This is like...
Have I got value?
Have you got value? Have you got dignity? And we've got to listen enough to hear what's actually being said.
It's true.
Because often we see it as a defense question when actually it's a ministry. It's like how do I partially love you?
Because often it's if people are they're just quite attacking, there's sometimes, often there's like hurt or there's something that's happened that the church has represented or have done, or they've experienced it from somebody in the church, and it's like they've been hurt. It's not about the actual, as you say, not about the actual intellectual argument or thing they've got against in that particular moment. It's like you feel it in the emotion, like what's happened here, like
you've always got to ask that question of who hurt you.
Yeah,
you know, like I've spoken to so many very passionate atheists. If you listen long enough, you realise they went to a Catholic school.
Yeah.
And Sister Mildred put them on detention when they were 5 years old.
Like my dad.
And they've never forgiven the church ever since, you know. So you got to try and work out what's the real issue underneath it all.
No, that's good. Yeah. I mean, this is just a little question because we're on social media right now and people are watching it. But just even say like online, people defending the faith can get real like kind of nasty, and it's bad. I feel like conversations and just it doesn't look good. And for other people even watching and looking in on that. Yeah.
Personally, I avoid ever commenting on anything online.
Yeah.
There's been so many times I've wanted to.
Yeah.
Because you watch a video on YouTube where the person's just making the most ridiculous things about the Catholic Church, and you're just like, I want to. But I've kind of made this vow that I'm never going to comment on it.
It doesn't go well, hey?
Because it doesn't. It's not a context where people are open to dialogue.
Yeah.
You know, people are simply just gathering up more ammunition to throw at each other.
Yeah, it's not a conversation.
Not a conversation.
No.
I think you're going to achieve a whole lot more by, you know, praying for the person. You know, like, and once again, if you genuinely love the person, love them through prayer.
Yeah.
But then pray for the real wisdom to know how to respond.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're getting angry at this person on internet land, you know, maybe that's meant to motivate you to learn your faith better so that you can actually encounter a real person next week.
Yeah.
There's so many keyboard warriors who, you know, it's not actually achieving anything.
No, and I think about it, I mean, I'm just thinking about it as you're talking, like, if you have a conflict, because it's conflict, and if you have a conflict with somebody else, you know, the best way is actually physically going and talking to them, or at least talking on the phone, because even texting is not good in that situation because there's no tone, and it's like, you know, or, you know, you just don't know what the other person, how they're coming across. And so then even another level, you don't even know the person, and all they know is you're typing stuff and you're sitting behind your computer. It's how do you deal with that? You can't deal with the conflict very well like you wouldn't in real life, you know?
No. So. And to realise that there's a lot of people who love stirring up debate online because it's a game for them.
Yeah.
You know, there's this online journal I used to often look at, which was written by a bunch of Catholics, and I would scan through the comment section, and there was the same guy every time who would comment.
Yeah.
And you could tell he was just baiting people.
Yeah,
you know?
just having a reaction.
This was just his lunch break. He would go online just to stir up the Christians.
Yeah.
And everyone fell for it. You know, you're better off just ignore it and pray for the guy.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen on other situations where it was like, it was sometimes people do these reviews where it's like music. And like this guy was actually just really into Christian music. He wasn't Christian, but he was just loved the actual musicality of the music, and praise songs and things like that. But then it was the opposite of that, which is a good thing. Because it was like the comments were basically, people could see this guy was kind of who's open to God. Yeah. And then they just kind of love bombed him in the comments, and then they actually sort of helped to bring him to faith. Kind of thing. Yeah. That's a positive version of that. Yeah.
That's right. You know. You've got to be so careful about how you operate online. It's
yeah. I suppose just trying to be practical for young adults watching this. I mean, there's two different things. It's like defending. We're just speaking about your faith because we're sort of trying to even move away from that defending, defensive sort of thing. But there's like people that are not Christian, and then there's like, you know, other Christians, and we're kind of defending the Catholic sort of. You know, teachings and dogma and like faith and stuff like that. Like which one first? Maybe we look at both of those.
I think particularly for young adults, you've got to learn your faith.
Yeah, regardless.
Yeah. And like I said, I think there's actually something about learning your faith outside of the Christian bubble.
Yeah.
Or at least using that as a motivation to then come back and learn. Because we take so much for granted, we just presume a worldview.
So when you're saying like learning your faith outside the Christian bubble, like what do you mean?
So if you've grown up Catholic and you've always gone to church, always gone to a youth group, you don't realize that there's a particular framework through which you see the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Even an atheist who has grown up Christian sees the world through a Christian framework.
Yeah.
And this is the key thing where a lot of atheists say, well, we can be good without God. It's because you're still thinking as a Christian.
Yeah.
Like there's actually something about, it's a little bit like cross-cultural work. Like if you step outside your culture, suddenly you realize that the world's very different. Everything you thought was good is now bad, and everything you thought was bad is now good.
Yeah.
And it's really challenging.
Yeah.
This is why people have culture shock.
Yeah.
You almost need that within a faith context. Just step outside and realize that actually there's a whole bunch of people who believe that chastity is really evil. And they've thought that through pretty deeply.
Yeah.
Now, as a Christian, you're just like, well, hang on, what? But it's important to be exposed to that so that you can now step back and question your faith in a whole different way. So you're not simply learning it as information that you now build on top of your framework.
Yeah.
You're actually going back and examining it from a whole different angle to say, well, hang on, is this real? And why is it real?
Yeah.
And where did things go wrong? I mentioned that example for myself when I was at university. Like that was a motivation for me to go back and learn a bunch of things about what I believed and why we believed them. But it really motivated me to start to learn the origin of ideas and, all these ideas of our secular age. Where did they even come from? And who were the first people who came up with those ideas? That kind of sent me down this rabbit hole of, and I'm always a bit of a sucker for history, but, to actually go back and you start to realize that a bunch of these philosophers from the 1800s who came up with the most radical, bizarre ideas of the time, these are now the things that we live and breathe. But you then dig deeper and you say, okay, well, why did they think that way? 9 out of 10 times, they came from really messed up families.
Yeah.
And they were trying to create a worldview that made sense of their own pain. But in doing so, they've imposed that pain upon the whole world. There's actually something really important in understanding the origin of that, because it helps you to now see this secular world through that lens. And you can start to realize, okay, most people today have no idea why they think what they think. They've been told that, life is meaningless, that sexuality is just
whatever you choose.
It's a bit of fun, gender is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
They have no idea where these things came from. If you can learn the history of it, it actually becomes a really easy way to cut through an argument. You simply tell the story and say, well, this is where the whole ideology came from. And straight away, the whole argument collapses. Like you've a little bit like trying to knock down a building. You hit it at the foundation and it collapses straight away. So if you can learn the origin of ideas, it can actually become a really kind of non-confrontational way of dealing with these things.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm genuinely fascinated with the idea you're presenting. Let me tell you the stuff that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
And very quickly, people can start to question whether it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these ideas, I remember chatting with you years ago as well, like sort of like it's basically intellectuals in like universities, professors and things like that, and they have these ideas and then bring them down through the culture.
Yes.
It's not just everybody just believes this stuff because it's just because it's true. They've just kind of, it's been passed down.
Exactly.
Through
it just starts to become the air we breathe. By the third or fourth generation, we've forgotten where it's come from.
Yeah.
And we just presume it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then how about when we come to other Christians as Catholics? Like, how do we share the faith or defend the faith as like the Catholic faith to other Christians?
Yeah. I think that's a really key thing. So we need to be humble enough to really want to learn. I think that's the key thing. Whenever you are talking to people from a Protestant background, or particularly an Orthodox background, you think you know what you're talking about, but you need to be prepared to step into a world where you're going to discover a whole lot of stuff you've never heard of before. Catholics are probably more familiar with talking to Protestants. We're really quite ignorant of the Orthodox world, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But even then, as much as you think you know what the deal is with the Protestant world, so often the conversations miss the mark. We're saying we're using the same language but meaning different things by it. So our understanding of salvation is very different to a Protestant understanding of salvation. So when they say they're saved by faith, and we say, yeah, we think we're also saved by faith, but we mean different things by those words.
Yeah.
So it's important to take a step back and say, well, what do we actually mean by this stuff? And what can we learn from it? Where's it all coming from? Particularly when you're talking with the Orthodox, you're going to realize that there's a whole bunch of history behind that division as well. Like a little bit of it's about theology. A lot of it's about stuff that's gone on over centuries. So you need to be prepared to learn. And you're going to step into stuff where things that you don't think are actually a problem in the Orthodox world are really serious. Most Catholics have probably never heard of the sack of Constantinople in the 1400s.
Yeah.
But you talk to anyone who's Greek Orthodox and they'll talk as though it happened yesterday. And so there's stuff there. It's a little bit like a family division, where there's an argument you had with your brother 20 years ago and you can't even remember it. But for them, it's like they're still stewing over it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
That's the nature of the church. And so we've got to meet each other on that level. We've got to realize that there is not just theology at play, but there's human reality. My people were hurt by your people. It's a really key thing to discover, to learn, to realize that there are elements to our faith that are really important that we don't normally talk about. So say with the Catholic Protestant dialogue, most Catholics think, okay, the key differences are the Pope, Mary, and the Eucharist. And so if we learn that, we can answer anything. But really, the core of the things around anthropology. It's like, how deeply did sin damage your soul? That's the core of the issue that Luther had. And unless you're dealing with that, the other stuff's just,
it's not the real heart of the.
It's not the real thing. Like you're just going to keep talking around in circles. So it's a good chance for you to go deep and learn where you're from. Like what is the origin of all these ideas? What's the history behind it? And once again, the more you can know the history of it, the better you're going to be on a solid ground.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well, super interesting, Dave, just having you with us. And yeah, like particularly what we're talking about at the beginning of around, that we're not sort of have to circle and protect ourselves and be defensive, but to actually offer to the world healing and like just a perspective that it needs actually, and bring that in a kind of a loving way, in a way that we're listening to other people. So awesome to have you with us, and I'm sure we'll get you back on the podcast. So that's it for us. And peace out from me, and see you from Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the MGL podcast. Tune in every Monday and Wednesday for new episodes. Connect with us on Instagram at MGL_priests and brothers. And that's all from us. Until next time.